did I get here? As I thought this to myself as I stood on a cracked sidewalk, staring at the front door like it might open on its own and save me the trouble. My mind racing, connection over comfort, connection over comfort. My heart thudded in my chest. What am I doing here? This is crazy, God. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a therapist. I'm not even sure I'm the right person for this. But I knew deep down that I was called. The reason for my visit was a little boy in our ministry, nonverbal, who often had explosive outbursts. And he was viewed by many in our ministry as nothing more but a disruption. His mother, quiet, often distant, always tired. And I had watched as our children's ministry director tried. They really tried, but every conversation seemed to fall flat, lost in translation and buried under layers of fatigue and quiet shame. And if I'm honest with you this evening, I too had fallen into this easy trap of judgment. But something in me shifted the moment I looked past her silence and I saw her pain. And God began to reveal to me what the solution was to this problem. That it wasn't found in systems or creating structured environments. No, this was about connection. So there I was on a cracked porch, nervous as all get out, trying to manage the anxiety of this moment while silently praying and begging God to show up before I did. Because I knew that I was intimidated. But I also knew this: real connections, deep, authentic connections almost always begin with discomfort. So I took a shaky breath. I whispered, Lord, let your love speak louder than my fear. And I rang the doorbell. And I asked myself, what made this so difficult? To knock on this door, to engage with this woman, what makes it so difficult for us? Because this is the difficulty of we. When we know we should engage in our hearts, when we know we should connect, but we're constantly confronted with this barrier that blocks us. Why? Because I've come to realize in large measure is that we get too comfortable. We get in our cocoons of comfort, our cages of convenience, and we naturally stay there because it's easy. Because the we is always easy when it's with people we enjoy interacting with. And what I want you to understand this evening, that in our efforts to connect, that there will always be another law at work in our flesh, inciting us to shrink back instead of to boldly lean in. He has called us to lean in. I want you to understand that there are powers and principalities established in such a way as to prevent us from coming together and moving forward in his divine direction. Because the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. In the word, he's personified as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. And how does a lion attack? They look at the herd to see the one that is by themselves, and they pounce on it. Friends, can I tell you this evening that there's a risk in being alone. There's a risk in being isolated. And we as believers must go after those in our families and the families around us and our ministries and in the communities. We must go after those who we see are by themselves. Because this is the call of connection. And it's not just a call. It's not just any call. It is God's call for all of us who profess to be his. Our triune God, who exists in this beautiful connected community, extended this beautiful invitation to humanity through Christ. And I want you to know this evening that he extends the same beautiful invitation to you and I, to us, but not only to us, but through us to others. It is a call. And I want you to get this, because when you understand the sacredness of the call of connection, it makes you look at that person differently. And this is what Jesus modeled for us. You know what I love about Jesus is his ability to take the time to stop, to pause, to stop, to lean in. He stopped. He did authentic life, and he wasn't afraid of getting his hands dirty because he was less concerned about being inconvenienced and more concerned about creating transformational connections that would flip the world on its head and advance the kingdom of God. Is that your goal in your ministries? Is that your goal in your communities? The woman at the well, everyone would have gone out of their way to avoid a person like her. But what did Jesus do? He stopped. He connected. Are you connecting? And you know what? The conversation he had probably wasn't more than 10 minutes, but it transformed her life. A despised tax collector, what did he do? He stopped. He connected. A leper, he stopped and he touched him. Entire ministries shaped by people he connected with. And the point is, he exemplified for us a life set on fire from heaven through connectivity. We must connect. We must create the space and the time to connect. He did this, but how was he able to do this? Because he was connected vertically. Because your connection here will depend on the impact and the power you have with your connections here. So friends, my clarion call to you this evening is, who are those straggling sheep that God is calling you to bring back into the fold? I don't know who they are, but I urge you to listen to his still small voice. Is it that single mother barely pulling it together to be at church on Sunday? Is it that rebellious teenager whose dismissive attitude is a failed cry for help? Is it that stoic father who longs for community, but he doesn't know how to ask for it? Is it that child who longs for acceptance and acts out because they constantly go into a world where they are met with nothing but rejection? You know, the little boy I mentioned earlier, the principle of that experience has always stayed with me. And it has reminded me to this day of the importance to create the space, to take the time to connect with the children and families that God has called for me to serve. You know, after that extreme extremely uncomfortable visit, something incredible happened. I went in to serve in our ministry, and I expected business as usual. Outbursts, thrown toys, exasperated volunteers. But that day was different because I was different. And I remember I walked in and I saw this little boy. And instead of shrinking back, I leaned in and I sat down crisscross applesauce and I looked at this nonverbal little boy. And I told him that I loved him. I said, I love you, and no matter what, we are going to work this thing out together. And for the first time in our ministry, this nonverbal boy spoke 2 words. He said my name. He said, Miss Esther. And I said, that's right. I'm your Miss Esther, and I love you, and we're gonna work this out. I wish I had time to tell you that from that point on, this was a different little boy. This was not the same little boy, because that's the beauty of connections. It changes not just us, but those around us. So I challenge you this evening to move past the discomfort, to answer the call, to lean in and be a part of this beautiful community of heavenly connections. Because we were never meant to do this thing alone. Thank you.